afterwards or getting connected to the recording, feel free to send me a message or email isd@boston.gov. My name is Jessica Thomas, and we will be presenting a webinar on rodent control and how it starts with you. This informational webinar, you'll hear from John Earlrich, who's our Assistant Commissioner, Dennis Roach, Superintendent, Chris McNally, who's an inspector, and myself, I'm the Assistant Commissioner of our Constituent Services Division at ISD. Just go to the slides. And so as far as decorum and guidelines for participation, we ask that you engage respectfully at all times. Disruptive behavior will not be permissible. We are encouraging all questions to be typed directly into the chat. If you have additional questions or comments, it can be directed at ISD after the meeting. We are open from 8 to 4, Monday through Friday, or you can email isd@boston.gov, or you can visit our website and the link will be shared. I'll be able to put it in the chat. And again, this webinar will be recorded and posted on our website. So if you are interested in revisiting that, you'll be able to have access to it. So further ado, I'll introduce you to John.
Good evening, John Ulrich. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of Environmental Services here at ISD. I'm joined by Dennis Roach, Superintendent of Waste Reduction. Rodent control mission statement of inspectional services. Mission is to protect the health and safety of Boston businesses and residential communities by enforcing building, housing, health, and environmental regulations effectively and consistently. Next. We operate on 5 basic principles: public education, improvement of sanitation practices, proactive prevention, rapid response, and enforcement. Our main function is we respond to 311, enforcement of the state sanitary code. We utilize integrated pest management program to keep populations low. Integrated pest management is the best approach for pest management. We put controls into place to reduce our reliance on rodenticide. It's a more effective way to reduce rodents. Next. Environmental does a lot of outreach. Since June, we've done 70 community walkthroughs across the city. Our inspectors conduct the walkthroughs, meet with neighborhood groups, along with ONS, other city departments, including code enforcement. We allow neighbors to point to the issues that they're dealing with, identify issues around their properties. We have bilingual inspectors. We also have all our materials printed in 6 languages. Next. When you file a 311 complaint, an inspector, it goes through 311, it gets filtered to the area inspector. The area inspector will respond to that complaint within 24 to 48 hours and attempt to identify what is causing the rodent problem. And it's mainly driven by food, but food, water, and shelter is what we're looking for. Rodent harborage, but mainly driven by food. As you can see, dumpsters, trash are the main food source in the city of Boston, and maintaining the trash is really important. Next. Feeding the birds, whether it's bird feeders or throwing out stale bread. In the city, if you're feeding the birds, you're usually contributing to rodent activity. Next. Dog waste is a preferred food source for rodents. It provides them everything they need, undigested food. So if you have a dog and you let them out in the backyard, you want to clean up right after them. Rodents can thrive just on dog waste. So important to clean up right after your pets. Next. Properly storing your trash. Making sure your barrels have covers, tight fitting lids, that they don't have holes in them or cracks. You wanna make sure you're storing your compost in a rodent-proof container. The city, Dennis will talk about later, the city has great containers. We have had no complaints about rats getting into them. You wanna rinse out your trash when you can. Rats can smell trash. And so making sure your trash is clean and well-contained is important in reducing rodent activity. Sanitation is the most important way to reduce rodent infestations, especially inside your home, but all around your home. Inside your home, if you're dealing with rodents, you should call us, call a pest control professional. But making sure that you're not leaving food around, food is the driver, making sure you store food properly, not leaving bread out on counters, cleaning, vacuuming, all that kind of things will help reduce rodent activity. You want to make sure you have enough barrels for the amount of trash that your building or house produces. If you have 2 barrels with covers, and then you put out 4 trash bags, you're missing the point, and you're still contributing to rodent activity. Rodents will take advantage and establish anything as a food source. If you put your trash out in a bag every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, rodents will learn what time that trash is going out and establish it as a food source. Next. If you feed your pets outside, you should stand there and wait till they finish it. If you feed feral cats or stray animals, or you feed your pets outside, make sure you're bringing the pet food in. Pet food is a food source for rodents. Harborage, rodents need harborage. They need places to hide and feel safe. Rodents try to avoid us. They like low bushes. They love clutter, especially when it's close to a food source. So in the pictures here, old bikes piled up, old barrels, old furniture. Rodents will nest in that, especially when it's next to a trash barrel. So make sure you remove anything you're not using, clean out, get rid of the clutter. Next. Front yard, rear yard, ground cover, vegetation is what rodents love the best. Rodents like bushes that touch the top of the head, means they're safe from predators above. It also makes them burrow. So removing any ground cover, cutting and trimming bushes so that you can see the stem, that is important in reducing the safety and allowing rodents to feel comfortable. And if it's close to a food source, like in the picture, rodents will burrow. There are burrows in that ground cover that I'm doing an inspection there. One of the best ways to control rodents is to make it impossible for them to gain entry into your home. No matter how many rodents, how many rats are outside, they should never be able to get inside your home. And so you want to make sure that your home is secure. Next. You want to go around your home and check your window jambs, the mortar on your foundation. If you don't have a poured concrete foundation and it's the field stone or granite block, you want to make sure that your foundation is pointed, that the entry where your utilities come in, cable, the door jambs and window jambs, door sweeps, you want to make sure the house is sealed up tight. Like I said, no matter how many rodents are outside, they shouldn't be able to get inside. Next. As I said, exterior structure, install door sweeps. If you're inside the hallway of your home and you can see light coming out underneath your door, then your door is not tight enough and you need to add a door sweep. Preferably a rodent-proof one, like an excluder or something like that. You want to make sure that, even in outside structures like garages, that you seal those up. Rodents will make those harborages and places for them to nest. Next. Methods we use. So environmental services, we have 14 licensed inspectors, respond to 311 complaints, but we also do pest control. We do pest control on city property, public parks, public ways, public sewers. Next. Dry ice is one method we use, very effective, 2 pounds of dry ice in each hole. It helps us reduce our reliance on rodenticide. We haven't used it as much lately, because we have found other methods similar that are effective. Next. This is the Burrow RX machine. As part of our integrated pest management, Burrow RX machine is a machine that uses carbon monoxide to pump into the burrows. It kills the rat inside the burrows. There's no risk of secondary poisoning with rodenticide, and it's very effective, especially in our parks. So we use this machine every day. We have a couple crews throughout the city, treating parks and other city property. Construction sites. Environmental services regulates pest control on construction sites. We have the community sanitation requirement. If you pull a permit, a demo permit, you're building a new building, you're excavating, digging for a foundation, you're required to do pest control. And how that is the requirement, it's a sign off with environmental services. You come in, you hire a pest control, they come out, inspect the property, they give you a pest control report. You come in and turn that report in. We then give you the sign off, and that triggers an inspection from one of our inspectors. Our inspector then comes out, inspects the construction site to make sure that there's pest control in place and that the construction site is rodent free. Construction sites do not create rodent activity by themselves. Construction is not a cause. If there's rodent activity on the site before, then it could spread. And that's why we have the community sanitation program in place. But most of the times, the challenges that we have is the sanitation around construction sites. So if you are dealing with a construction site and construction workers, and there might be a sanitation issue, simply call 311 and file a complaint, and an inspector will respond in 24 to 48 hours, come out, speak to the construction workers and do an inspection on the site. Site cleanliness is one of our licensing programs. We license bulk refuse containers, mainly dumpsters in the city. If you have a dumpster in a city and you're a residential building or a business, you're required to have a site cleanliness license. Next. The site cleanliness, it triggers an annual inspection. It's a $50 fee. If you're a business, like I said, or you're a resident with a dumpster, you're required to have this license. We annually will come out, inspect the condition of the dumpster, make sure it's in good working order. If a violation of the site cleanliness ordinance is $1,000, it's not a fine we often give, but we aim for compliance. So we've done a lot of work on this program and looking to expand it to more residential buildings and businesses. Site cleanliness ordinance regulates any condition of the dumpster that would impact the neighbors. And so overflowing dumpsters, the wind blows, it creates litter. Dumpsters create poorly maintained dumpsters create rodent activity. And so our goal is to make sure that your dumpsters are in good working order so that you're not contributing to rodent population. I'm going to turn it over to Dennis for his presentation.
My name is Dennis Roach. I'm the superintendent of waste reduction for the city of Boston. As John clearly indicated, we have identified that obviously trash is a big driver of rodent activity in the city of Boston. There are many other reasons, but the way we maintain waste in the city really impacts the rodent activity in all the neighborhoods around the city of Boston. So I'm going to go through a quick introduction of who we are. Again, I'm Dennis Roach, the superintendent of waste reduction. We have an assistant superintendent in our division, Jerry Gorman, office manager, zero waste contract manager, director of waste and policy planning, is a zero waste program manager in our department. Our department oversees an operation of a trash inspector team whose main goals and objectives are to make sure that our trash contractor, Capital Waste, is out doing their job effectively and efficiently collecting trash from residents across the city of Boston. We have a call center, an administrative team that take complaints and issues from residents, and we address them through our inspection team on a daily basis. We also respond to 311 calls quite efficiently through our trash inspecting team. We have a planning, policy, and education team that are out there creating new programs, new waste programs, new recycling programs, educating our residents on what these waste programs and recycling programs do in our neighborhoods. We're offering attending community events out there, pushing some of these new programs that I'll talk about a little bit later. And we oversee the code enforcement team. This is a group of 17 code enforcement officers that in fact enforce trash regulations across the city. They enforce both commercial violations of our businesses, but also residential violations. Mainly how we store and put out trash in reliance to our code out there in the city. Quick synopsis of what Boston's waste model looks like from a financial perspective, but we have collection contracts under the Capital Waste. We have disposal contracts. These are basically sites that we bring our waste to across the city, usually on the outskirts of our city. We have disposal sites, and we have contracted services for other various materials, including food waste, textiles, mattresses, and we also host household hazardous events. It's important to highlight these things because Boston waste contracts equate to almost $100 million of city contracts a year. We are amongst the biggest city contracts that the city has for anything in the city is waste disposal. So just kind of important to highlight how expensive waste is and how appreciative we are when neighbors take it seriously and follow the proper rules and help keep our city streets clean. So why is Boston a perfect storm for rats? Basically, we're an old city. We have 150 years old sewer systems. We have rat-friendly alleys and street corners. We are very high dense population in many of our downtown neighborhoods and around us. We have lots of large buildings that generate a lot of residential trash at all times. The city of Boston does 200,000 tons of trash a year. It's quite a large number that we're picking up every day. We pick up 70,000 households a day, and we do 40,000 tons of recycling every year as well too. So it's a very high volume city, dense city for trash. The city
it's like kind of like.
Oh, we don't have to play that. So just go back the slide, please. We might have to pause the video if it plays. The city's basically a free dinner buffet for rats as long as trash is out in the streets and properly. As it currently stands on your trash day, Boston has no containerization rules. We do pick up bags of trash on the street, and this basically leads to a free dinner buffet. We don't require containerization when your trash is on the sidewalk on its trash day. We do require containerization when trash is on your property and stored on other days of the week, and we can go into that later. So basically, the more you containerize and the more residents take responsibility for containerizing their trash, even when it's on the curb, the less rats we will see in neighborhoods. And that's kind of the point of our presentation here today is to lean towards containerization. We'll show you a couple of ways how. Next slide, please. Talk about 5 reasons why rats like our trash. I mean, it's simply very simple. Rats need to eat. It's the food that sits inside those trash bags that are exposed in the street that the rats are after. The rats tend to, I think John explained, the rats tend to be very, very smart, intuitive animals. They know where their food sources are. They know where they consistently are. They know the times of day that they're out. They know where they are. They don't stray from those food sources very often. You know, they build homes around it. They settle in areas where food scraps are well known to them, and they don't move. So if you have trash or food that's out and unexposed and not containerized or in improper containers, they will know, and they will constantly be in those areas. They love the pet waste, as John said. They stick in those areas. They have the keen sense of smell. They know when the trash is in these bags, and they go after it. So and then finally, like John talked about, they look for areas of clutter where they can thrive. Next slide, please. So what can a resident do? So we talked about containerization. Containerization is our best option against rats and rodents, right? It's right now, it's not mandatory on your trash day on the curb. City of Boston is looking at new rules and regulations around that. The city of New York rolled out sweeping changes in the last year about containerization. They got really hard on it. They rolled out new containerization rules where it's mandatory in many areas of the city. They're strictly enforcing it with fines, violations, and public shaming campaigns. Boston is looking at what New York is doing. We don't say we're going to model exactly what New York is doing, but we do realize that containerization is our future in the city of Boston. So up until then, we recommend that you always store your trash in rodent-proof bins. Currently, right now, I don't know of a bin that is technically rodent-proof for a resident. But how we rodent-proof for them is we allow, up to a 65-gallon tote. Always make sure the garbage cans have lids. They're always sealed at all times. You can't allow access to your trash via a lid that's kind of loose or off or anything like that. Do never leave a garbage bag outside the bin, and always damage or replace damaged bins. Discard or replace damaged bin. Rats often eat through these bins over time. They're not rodent-proof over time. If you leave them outside, if you leave them heavy with food sources, they're going to eat through the bins over time. So if they develop holes or develop cracks in their lids, incredibly important to replace the bins at all times. And then rinse your recycling bin. Always clean it out, or your trash bin. Clean it out. Make sure it's free of food debris. Make sure it's free of those smells we talked about that don't attract rodents. I won't go through this completely, but as John said, maintain your property. Keep your yard clean. Incredibly important to keep your trash corrals clean, where you store trash. If you live in a big building, make sure your property manager is maintaining those trash corrals. They're looking for those areas to nest and create homes where their food sources are. And then finally, probably and most importantly, is register for our food waste program. The city of Boston offers free curbside food waste program for the entire city. That you'll see them around, their little green bins. It's a way to separate your food waste into a container. These containers are not rodent-proof. They're much like your trash bin. If they're well maintained, if they're not put outside at all times and allowed residents to, so we recommend you store them inside so they don't get infested with rats themselves, or rats don't smell and eat through them. But they're little lids, the little bins, they can go inside your residence. You can separate your food waste out of your trash and keep rats off of your property by registering for our food waste program. Can you flip the thing? I think I have a little more detail. Next slide on the food waste. So here are the picture of the bins. Basically, like I said, the cost is free. Any resident that lives in a building with 6 units or fewer is eligible for this particular program. We service it the same day as your trash. It gets put out right next to your trash. The bins have a little lock on them, really helps with the rodents as well. We accept all material, food waste, compostable material, soiled napkins. The website has an entire list of everything that's in sitting this. We currently have 25,000 residents pretty much enrolled up until this point citywide, but this is open to every Boston resident that lives in a building with 6 units or fewer. So very important for how to manage rats, and is composting your food and keeping out of your trash stream. Next, please. So a couple of tips if you live in a big building. Tips for big buildings is we have educational programs for residents through ISD and everywhere else that tells you about your rat programs. It's still very important to make sure we seal our trash here. We go around the city all the time, and I know John, when he's on his rat inspections, the biggest problem we see is big buildings that have dumpsters that don't have sealed lids on them. The rats are jumping in and out of these dumpsters. I think I heard a stat the other day that jet rats can jump up to 3 feet high or something like that. So they're jumping inside and outside of these dumpsters on dumpsters that don't have these sealed lids. So we got to make sure that as we're disposing our trash, that our property management and our other residents, they're lifting the lid, putting the trash in and sealing it back up. I know that's what's causing a massive problem across the city in terms of rats around big buildings. You have to clean the areas around the bins and the corral, make sure they're regularly cleaned. And it always helps to start a recycling program or nudge a big building to get together and look at food waste programs. So our current program isn't scalable to big buildings, but there are options for big buildings. We have a program called Project Oscar, which we have a list of locations here on our left side. It's pretty small, but there's you can go to our website and find the locations across the Project Oscar. There's 20+ locations now of Project Oscar bins across the city where you can bring food waste to and dispose of it properly. We are expanding upwards of over 35 through this spring. So we'll have 35 locations by this spring where you can bring all your food waste free of cost, and it'll be composted through a community bin program. And there are also private contractor options. There are several private contracts. I think there's a little bit of a slide later on that we can talk about a little bit for private contractors that you can pay a small monthly service fee to have a food waste program in a big building. You can do this as a group, as a big building as a group, or you can do it individually for your unit. And then one of the things we strongly recommend every time a big building comes along to the city is that the big building itself invests in a commercial level service, that they don't actually take city trash service. The big difference here is when you invest in the commercial level service as a big building, you are buying into a higher level grade service. So you're buying into a trash company that will maintain your dumpsters. They will fix your dumpsters as they break. If you have cracked lids or issues like that, they allow you to lock your dumpsters. They'll come pick up your trash at a locked dumpster, if that's something that works for your community and it helps you keep your bins and your dumpsters sealed more often. They clean the dumpsters, they power wash them every so often as part of their program. They basically provide better bin and area maintenance than the city can provide. The city provides the same residential service to big buildings as it does to single family homes out there. So we certainly suggest that very large buildings get a service, but any building with 7 or more units, a private service is always best. And then finally here, the integrated pest management plan, I think John talked about a little bit, but we strongly recommend that all big buildings have a pest management service associated. I think is required, John?
It's not required, but strongly recommended.
Strongly recommended that all big buildings. So for these particular tips, very important to work with your property managers. The city always provides support. If you feel like you need support, you can create a 311 complaint about your location at a big building. We will find the property manager. We will follow up. We will make all these suggestions. We will work with them, especially if they're willing to work with us. We'll work with them on making sure they have all the resources to make sure that we're maintaining our trash properly in the big building setting. Next slide, please. Just a quick synopsis of our Project Oscar plan, as I told you before, this is just to show you what the bins look like. Again, it's free to all Boston residents. There's currently 20 plus locations across the city you can find on our website if you go look at it. And we are adding 15 more locations by spring of 2025. And this is a great resource for people that live in big buildings to bring their food waste. Next slide. And here is a quick list of haulers, private contract haulers. If you live in a big building and you want to pay a minimal fee to have your food waste, them come to your door to collect your food waste on a weekly basis. Our contractor does not pick up at big buildings, but these contractors will pick up for a nominal monthly fee. So if it's something you're interested in, you can reach out to one of these contractors about picking up your food waste. Finally, compost give back. So all of the compost we get through the food waste program and also our yard waste program is we do offer certain days during the week that'll be listed out on our website. They're not up there now, but they'll be up there shortly for the 2025 season. But as we create compost through food waste and yard waste, we do give this back to Boston residents. You have to show up at our particular compost giveaway day. But we will give you bags of compost if it's something you can use in a community garden or plantings or anything like that. So we do recycle a lot of this compost and give it back and put it right back into our community. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dennis. So Boston Rodent Action Plan, we're going to talk a little bit about that. In June, the mayor launched the Boston Rodent Action Plan, which is a new initiative to reduce rodent population across the city of Boston. Next. As I said, it's a new initiative, coordination across city departments to find a way to reduce rodent activity. We engaged and hired Dr. Bobby Corrigan, who is a well-respected urban rodentologist across the country, works in a lot of cities. And he did an assessment of the city of Boston and published a report. That report is now public. Next. As I said, it's a coordination across multi-agency initiative to mitigate rodent activity. So coordination between all city departments to find a way to reduce rodent activity. ISD, we do mitigation, but some of these other departments all have a role to play. As Dennis talked about, his role is trash. But all departments have a role. 311 is our main source to connect us with constituents. IT helps us with technology. Parks and Rec is our partner. We deal with rodents and trash in the park. So getting together and making sure that we all have the best information so that we can work together, coordinated effort to reduce rodent population across the city. Thanks. As Dennis said, it's an old city. We have old infrastructure. There are challenges. We have small streets, challenges around trash and trash pickup, which creates advantages for rodents. And so those are the things that the challenges we're up against, and those are the things that the BRAP group is working on trying to address. Human behavior is our #1 challenge. Human behavior contributes to the rodent population. We don't have a rodent problem, we have a human problem, a people problem. Getting folks to store their trash properly, to understand the connection between what they do and their actions and how that contributes to rodent activity is a big part of this plan, to do outreach and education and making sure folks understand how their actions impact and create rodent activity. Dr. Corrigan's recommendations fall into 6 categories. It's coordination, trash management, data and technology, community engagement, integrated pest management, and sanitation. As you can see, coordination, convening the BRAP working group, we have met 5 times, responding to specific rodent issues holistically with relevant city agencies. All the city agencies are at that group, and we meet regularly to talk about this. Trash management, we're looking at pilots in certain neighborhoods to start, action neighborhoods, to try out some pilots so that we can possibly scale those ones that work. Also looking at ways to measure those interventions. Shifting towards rodent-proof litter baskets on public property. And so an example of that is the Boston Commons. We have all new rodent-resistant barrels in the Boston Commons, and we're already seeing an improvement based on the inspectors that are there every day. Data and technology, rodent sensors were a big recommendation in the report. We are looking at this technology, hopefully to measure interventions, to use for many different things in the future, measure our interventions, but also early indication to understand rodent activity and to use our resources efficiently. Using data models to predict rodent activity. Over the spring, we worked with 2 MIT students to develop an algorithm to predict rodent activity, and working on that model to not only rely on 311 complaints, but based on certain data, inspect and survey certain areas of the city. Community engagement is huge. We can only do this with our partners, the constituents, sharing guidance and residents. Like tonight, we do a webinar. This is our 3rd one this year. Reaching out to business communities. I often go to community groups. Dennis also does. We are developing different ways, materials to distribute, and door hangers and magnets, and we have videos online on our environmental sanitation. We have videos in 3 languages. As whatever we can do to reach constituents and educate them about the problem and how to fix it. Integrated pest management, we've talked a lot about that tonight. It focuses on the root causes of the problem. It also helps us reduce our reliance on rodenticide. And so finding ways to put controls into place, making the environment less inviting for rodents, is what we want to do long before we introduce lethal control. Sanitation is the key to mitigate rodent harborage, rodent food. Sanitation is the key. And so regular removal of trash, daily cleanup, and landscaping, maintenance of your property is important. Next slide. So as I said, some of the updates with the BRAP, we have new barrels on the commons. We're coordinating an educational campaign across city departments. We've recently purchased dry ice, carbon dioxide. Dry ice is frozen carbon dioxide, but logistically, sometimes it's challenging to pick up. We've recently purchased tanked CO2. This allows us, it has more flexibility than the Borough RX. It allows us to treat boroughs closer to homes. It's a really effective tool. We're really excited about it. We're currently using this product. Looking at smart traps in the sewers. We're looking at doing some pilots, talking to different providers and manufacturers around these new technologies to address subsurface activity. Health inspectors reviewing trash management practices in commercial food establishments, making sure that our food establishments and business community is educated and knows the effects and trash management. Soil baiting in rat vulnerable sewers. We've identified sewers that are rat vulnerable, based on, you know, some data from, work that was done during the big dig and then current work with, Dr. Corrigan. And so trying to focus our resources, and address rodent activity in the sewers. And then coordination between Public Works and ISD around, dumpster, license, site cleanliness license, making sure that dumpsters are getting licensed, getting a site cleanliness license so that we can inspect them, and make sure they're working properly. Next slide. Action, neighborhood overview. Again, there are 5 neighborhoods that were identified, that we will start some pilots with to see how effective the intervention is, and then the plan is to scale them eventually. Next slide. Ward 3, obvious challenges downtown, North End, Boston Common area. So looking at different interventions, you know, the regular stuff that we do with parks and sewers, also containerization on city barrels and parks barrels. Next. Similar Beacon Hill, Back Bay, where, you know, we're reaching out to residents, doing outreach, looking at different pilots that we can do in these neighborhoods to address activity in the parks. Trash storage is a big one in Beacon Hill, so we're looking at public alleys, trash storage, regular residential trash, and site cleanliness to try to improve. We're also worked with the residents of the Back Bay Neighborhood Association on their block captain to help engage folks on how the city can partner with constituents to address problems in their neighborhood. And so this one is really focused on public alleys. Austin Brighton, we've done a lot of work over there. I think you saw a video almost started earlier from our rat walk. We've done a lot of work over there. There was a very large rat walk in Austin Brighton, doing a lot of works in the parks around containerization. Austin Brighton, we've probably done the most walkthroughs, so meeting community members out there, walking the neighborhood, identifying issues. Really thinking about pilots that we can start in Austin Brighton to scale. Next. Dorchester is another neighborhood, challenges, you know, a little different housing stock, but parks, sewers, rodent activity, trash storage. These are all things that we're looking to address. Also looking at some of the technology that we're thinking about, where sensors and soil baiting technology subsurface, to see where a good fit is, looking at pilots to scale. Next. And the same in Roxbury. All these neighborhoods, whether they're containerization in parks, or we're looking at trash policy or new technology, we're gonna start in these 5 neighborhoods with the goal of scaling it across the city. Next step for the BRAP is to continue the progress that we've already made. So the group will continue to meet and work together to reduce rodent population across the city. And that is all I got. I appreciate everyone being here, and we'll save some time for Q&A.
Thank you, John. And so I know there was quite a few comments in the chat. I put them on a separate page, but I'll start with the first one. Are there any education or awareness for citizens on how to make the most of 311 request systems for rodent complaints?
Can you repeat that, Jessica? Are there any educational?
Awareness for citizens on how to make the most of the 311 requests? I could probably answer this one. So I know, typically if a request, if it's made through 311, you're given a case number. So the best thing to do would be to download the app, or you can also call 311 back, check the status of your case. But by downloading the app, residents will be able to have that case number, refer to it as needed. Typically, email may be sent over as follow-up, but I definitely encourage the community to, if they have their phone in front of them now, download our 311 app. It's a great tool, not just for rodent control, but to report non-emergencies. The second question is, if we have a trash or recycling bin that is damaged, how does the city prefer that the bin be marked for disposal itself? It's a great question.
If as long as you write on the bin itself and it's clearly marked that you want the trash company to take it, they should take it. You can also call 311 for if it's a recycle bin, and we will replace any damaged recycle bin with a brand new one and take away the old one. So if you were just request a new bin, tell them your bin's broken for recycle bin, the ones that we provide as a city, we will replace your old one that's cracked or broken and bring you out a new one and take away the old one.
Great. Yep. There was also another question around if residents should report neighbors if they don't address rat issues themselves. You're always more than welcome to reach out to 311. ISD also has a call center where we can input those inquiries as well. So we get code enforcement involved. We can see what's going on and follow up. 311.
Yeah, Jessica, I would say you should absolutely report any rodent activity. Compliance through assistance is ISD's motto. We do not, our violations are remedial. We're just asking you to correct it. If you don't report rodent activity, then it's not gonna fix on its own. So it's better that we have an inspector come out. We work with neighbors. If you have a neighbor that's struggling to take care of their property, we provide resources, connect them to resources. But you should always call us so that we can come out and provide assistance. We're not coming out just to do enforcement. We're coming out to try to provide assistance and fix the problem.
Perfect. Okay. Then there's another question. Someone mentioned they always drill a little hole on the bottom of their bin so that water and trash fluid does not accumulate in the bottom. Is that a bad idea?
So it may attract rodents, the liquid. It also is damaging your barrel. So I wouldn't do it. I would try to rinse your trash and recycling. I would try to keep liquid out of your barrel. If it's an outdoor barrel and you're talking about rainwater, you should have a tight fitting lid that prevents water from getting into it. Those are my recommendations. I wouldn't drill holes in your trash barrel.
Okay. All right. And then there was a question around, the question was, why can't the city not give a reasonable window for trash pickup? Sometimes the trash is collected very early and sometimes very late. Why not insist on a regular schedule?
Pretty simple in that way. Trash is incredibly expensive. Like I presented at the beginning, it costs us about $100 million to do it. In order to do it incredibly efficiently, we often had to go into one neighborhood in the morning with a set of trucks, dump that set of trucks, and then go into neighborhood in the afternoon. And that's how we manage trash in all of our neighborhoods. Times can always flip, and we have no way of knowing based upon traffic volumes, construction areas in the city. We have no way to really narrow it down exactly when we don't have that technology capability on these trucks to narrow when we can be in a certain neighborhood at a certain time in order to pick up trash. So it's really complex, and we really to try to do it as efficiently as we possibly can to save the city millions and millions of dollars. And it doesn't allow us to kind of say we're going to be in this neighborhood at exactly this time and every single day at this point. Hopefully over time, there's technology and AI that changes the way trash is done, but that's currently the answer right now.
Okay. And we have a few questions just centered around like enforcement and when, there are repeat offenders, we do issue violations. But again, if those tickets aren't unanswered, do you want to just chat briefly about what that process looks like after that, or what additional enforcement measures look like?
We work closely with code enforcement. Code enforcement issues tickets. Sometimes if code enforcement tickets pile up, there is a process for code enforcement, but environmental sanitation, we enforce the state sanitary code similar to code enforcement. Our violations are remedial, but they end up in housing court. And so usually the combination of a code enforcement, which is a punitive fine, and a remedial fine, the violation from environmental services, if that doesn't get corrected. So environmental rights of violation based on the property, trash or rodents. That violation is served by a constable or by priority mail. We get a signature legal service. From the date of legal service, they have 7 days to correct the violation. If that doesn't happen, they're sent to an administrative hearing here at ISD. If they don't show up to the administrative hearing, or they don't provide evidence of why they can't correct the violation, we will work with folks. But if there is just no communication, they don't show up, or the violation is not corrected eventually, they'll be sent to housing court, and then go in front of the housing court judge to explain. Eventually, we'll get a court order, and they'll be required to fix the violation.
Okay. I know there was a couple of questions as well around birth control for rats. Wondering if you have any thoughts on that, or what the city is doing with birth control.
Yes, so we're hopeful. We are talking to one company around a fertility control product. We did observe the group in JP. And looked at their data. We were looking for a little more data. So still in conversations with them, but we're hopeful. The city of Boston, especially a tool that is environmental friendly and doesn't have a negative impact on the environment. We want all the tools we can get. Fertility control of rodents would be amazing. So we are hopeful on that direction, but more to come.
Great. And then lastly, so there a question from a reporter. Is there a comprehensive list of what kind of pilots the city is considering for each area that we could share, or what companies we're considering partnering with?
What companies?
We're considering partnering it with for the pilot programs.
So right now, the city is currently reviewing many options for pilots, and we haven't made any determination of anything we're looking to do. I would probably expect an announcement in the coming months about things that the RAD action plan is looking to pilot, but we have no immediate information about things we're looking to pilot right now.
Okay. New recycling bin. Can we, some questions in the system also about, can we get new recycling bins for new landlords? I think you touched on that, Dennis, or?
Yeah, so we provide recycling bins to buildings that have 6 units or fewer. So if you need a recycling bin for a house of 6 units or fewer, we provide the bins. You can call 311 to request a bin. Anything 7 units or more, it's at the property manager has to provide the bins.
Okay, thank you. All right, and I'll put our email in the chat and also our contact information. If folks do have follow-up questions, they're more than welcome to reach out to us. I'm the Assistant Commissioner of our Constituent Services Division at ISD, and so we do help to answer questions and we perform community walkthroughs. So if you do have follow-up questions, we'd love to hear from you and collaborate with neighbors across the city. I also wanted to acknowledge that our Commissioner, Tanya Del Rio, is on the line as well. And like I said, we're really excited to continue these education efforts, and you'll be seeing more of us. This has been recorded and will be on our website shortly after the meeting. And if folks want it any sooner than that, feel free to reach out to our team. Like I said, I'll put our contact information in the chat. Okay.
Jessica, can I speak real quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah, hi, it's Chris McNally. I'm one of the inspectors with Environmental Services. We have 22 wards and I work citywide, but my email is chris.mcnally@boston.gov. If anybody has any questions that's not being answered tonight or has any questions for an inspector to come out and look, email me and I will make sure I get out there and take a look at that. Real quick, people were asking about the CO2. Private companies do use it. And when we are doing the CO2 machines, we do cover every hole. Somebody was asking about escape holes. We do cover everything before we bait them, before we use the machine. So that to answer that question. But again, if anybody has any questions after, they can email me at chris.mcnally@boston.gov, and I will get back to you as soon as I can and come out and meet with you, do a walkthrough of any of the properties. And I work citywide, so anything I can do, I will. That's it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
And thank you everyone for your time. We really appreciate you attending. And again, we'll make sure that this video is available for folks who'd like to listen to it or view the presentation again. Thank you so much.